Welcome to the Dietitian Side Hustle podcast. My name is Katie Dodd, and I'm a nutrition entrepreneur. I spent 7 years as a side hustler before diving into entrepreneurship full time. Before making the leap, I was bringing in 6 figures through my side hustle. If I can do it, you can too. This podcast is for dietitians, interns, and students who want to be inspired to start or perfect the side hustle of their dreams. Let's do this. Hello and welcome to the 277th episode of the Dietitian Side Hustle podcast. My book launches today. Today is November 19th, 2025, and my book, Dietitian Side Hustle, is officially live. So in today's episode, I'm going to tell you a little bit more about the book. If you're listening live, I am having a party tonight. I'll tell you how to join that. I'll tell you about how to find it, how to consume it, and then I'm just going to share a little bit about the journey of how this book came to be, because honestly, it's been like 6 years in the making, if not longer. So you guys, I'm so excited that I created this book. I know I've said it before, but I created this book for you guys. This is literally everything I've learned over the years being an entrepreneur, not just the stuff that we think we need, like the tactical how-tos, but more the nitty-gritty stuff that's going to make a difference between success and failure, because I want each and every one of you to succeed. So this book is chock full of stuff that is going to help you with the journey of entrepreneurship, which is not all sunshine and roses. I mean, there's some awesome stuff. Don't get me wrong. I wouldn't trade entrepreneurship for anything, but there's a lot of reasons why people don't have long-term success in entrepreneurship. And in this book, I'm trying to knock it all out because I'm like, friends, I want you to succeed. So I created this book for you, and I am just so excited that it is now officially out into the world. If you are listening to this live, there's still time to be at my launch party, which is tonight at 5 o'clock Pacific, 8 o'clock Eastern time. Go to katiedodd.com to sign up. Just click Dietitian Side Hustle Insiders is the button you want to click on. And you'll get a link. I'm doing a live Zoom call. We're going to celebrate, and I'm going to be doing live drawings throughout. So I'm very excited for that. But let me tell you about how to find the book yourself. Now, if you go to dietitiansidehustlebook.com, dietitiansidehustlebook.com, you'll find a page with all kinds of information. There's a direct link there to buy my book. That is my Amazon affiliate link. And just a little note from the entrepreneur side of things, this is a way that I can promote my book and my Amazon affiliate link. So that is one place that you can go where I'm able to get money on both ends as an affiliate through Amazon Associates, but then also as the author making money through the book itself. So you can go there, but I understand dietitiansidehustlebook.com is kind of long. You could also go to katiedodd.com. I'll have a link there, which will bring you directly to the book website, or you can just go to Amazon. I have self-published through Amazon. So if you go to Amazon, just search Dietitian Side Hustle. Initially, it was bringing up my podcast every time I'd search in Amazon, but now it's bringing up the book. If it doesn't come up, put Dietitian Side Hustle book or Dietitian Side Hustle Katie Dodd. It will bring up the book. It is out there. So there are lots of different ways to find it. So let me tell you about pricing as of right now. Now, of course, pricing is always subject to change, but I've created this book to be consumed in 4 different ways, kind of. It's kind of 3 ways. Well, maybe 4. So the 4 different ways you can consume this book is paperback, which is, printed. If you're watching this on YouTube, I'm holding the paper back version. And then hardcover, which is kind of the same way to consume. You're still reading it, but I guess it's a different feel, right? I mean, the hardcover is nice. I'm not going to lie. I don't have a copy with me right now. I gave my copy to my business coach when I saw him last week. So, and I have an author copy coming. It's just, it takes 10,000 years. And when I say 10,000 years, I mean 3 to 4 weeks. But in this era of like 2-day shipping, that sounds like 10,000 years. But I'm able to buy author copies at just the cost of printing and shipping. So I'm like, oh shoot, I'll just do that. So anyways, it's available in paperback. It's available in hardcover. It's also available on Kindle for those of you who are ebook readers. And it will be available via Audible. Now, I am recording this episode a couple days early. Right now it is Sunday the 16th. So I'm a few days before when this episode goes live. But as of right now, I have not gotten the AOK from Audible that my book has been approved. And I will tell you, recording an Audible book was an adventure where I learned that I know nothing about sound. And I thought, oh, I'm a podcaster, no big deal. I know nothing. And so I did my best to try to meet all of their standards. I was able to upload every file into like a tool they had, and they said it was good in the file, but then I had to submit it and they said they will review it in 10 business days. I submitted it 11 regular days before the go live date. So hopefully I get the message that it has been approved. Now, where things can get a little wonky is if I get a message back saying like, yeah, you got to fix this. Then I've got to try to figure out how to fix it, upload it again. So all that to say, I'm hoping that today for launch day, Audible is available, but if not, it will be there soon. Okay, friends. It is just my goal to get this book on Audible. Now, I understand that dietitian side hustle is a niche market, but also there's over 100,000 dietitians. And quite frankly, I think that every dietitian and RD2B would benefit from this book, and even healthcare professionals who are not dietitians. I mean, I put a lot into this, and to me, it's just worth it. I want to have this book available to you guys in all of the different mediums. Now, one of the things about Audible, you all know that I'm done is better than perfect. I mess up all the time on this podcast. I don't edit. So the Audible book is a lot of imperfection too. I mean, it's good, but it's also one thing you'll be able to tell is that there's no way Katie used AI for that. AI could not do how I talk. It cannot stumble words, say the wrong words, and anyways, so I'm very, very excited for Audible. I wish that it was, I could tell you with 100% certainty that it would be ready today, but it is coming no matter what. Kind of where I'm at with the tech issue of Audible is I'm fingers crossed it comes back. If it doesn't come back, then I will do my best to make the changes. If it's still not accepted, I'll hire out a freelancer to help me. And if it's still not accepted, I will find a local recording studio and bite the bullet and pay the cost and record in person. Now, this book is long. It is it's over 10 hours of recording content. So if I can avoid, the fees of in-person recording studio, I will. But again, I am telling you guys that this book will be on Audible. So I mean it with everything in me. It will be live on Audible, no matter what the cost. I say that, but I also hope it's not a lot. So the actual print version of the book, if you're wondering how long that is, if you look at the numbers, if you're familiar with books at all, like the very front pages don't have numbers, and then the introduction has like Roman numerals, and then we get into the actual numbers. So there are 368 pages. Now the actual pages, if you count the couple extra that come in the back, it's about 400 pages. So it is a big book. It's definitely a big book. It's called Dietitian Side Hustle, and its subtitle is A Comprehensive Guide for Starting a Side Hustle, Making More Money, and Loving What You Do. So when I say comprehensive guide, I mean comprehensive guide. I was actually, so this book has been edited 1,000 times. I mean, I have an editor. I had 4 beta readers. And even this last week when I was in Florida at my business mastermind, I'm going through it. I'm like, oh my gosh, typo, gotta fix it. So who knows what might be out there, but if there's a typo, it'll be on brand. No, this has been edited 1,000 times. I did my best. But anyways, when I was in Florida, I'm making little notes of things to change. I'm dog-earing pages. I'm sending messages to my editor, and she was so gracious enough to go make the changes so that way I can get my final upload done when I was there. And I happened to be talking to a physical therapist when I was at my mastermind. She is amazing. She is incredible. And I didn't know this about her, but she's still a full-time employee. And I was like, whoa, what's going on here? When's your plan to leave your job? And I say that with such confidence because, several years ago, I was like, there's no way I could leave my job, but it was being in the right rooms, the right people in a mastermind that got me out. And so I started talking to her about what is it going to look like to leave your job. And so we talked about, she's like, well, because I asked her, when do you want to leave? And she's like, I think by the end of the year. I was like, great, let's do this. End of the year. You can do this. It's like a month and a half, but she can do it. And what I ended up doing is I pulled out my book that was dog-eared, written up, and I asked her, do you have room in your luggage for a book? And she said, yes. And I told her, this book is totally messed up, but here's what I want you to do. I went to a certain page where it talks about going full hustler, which means quitting your full-time job and becoming a full-time entrepreneur. I did a big fold on that page. Then I went to the back of the book where I have tons of worksheets, and I have a whole workbook in here, or worksheet, on making a plan to leave your job. I did a big page full too. And I said, okay, when you are on the plane, here's what I want you to do. I want you to go to this page and read all about leaving your job. Then I want you to go to the worksheets and I want you to make your plan. So that way you could leave your job by the end of the year. And she's like, okay. So anyways, I'm so excited for this book because it's not just information. It is tools to help you achieve your goals, whatever they are, whether it's like, I just want to start a small thing, Katie, or I want to go all full hustler. Whatever your reason is for starting something on the side, a passion project, a way to make money. There's really no right or wrong reason to start a side hustle. It's, all depend on you and your situation, but this book is made to help you. So I don't know how I went on that tangent. I have notes somewhere of what I'm supposed to be talking about. It's launch day, friends. I'm so excited. So, okay, I was talking about the ways that you can consume it. Oh, prices. I want to tell you guys about prices. So, I know I've talked about self-publishing on Amazon many times in the past, but there's all these different things on how much your book costs for printing. And it has to do with how many pages, if it's black and white or color. There's like lots of moving parts on the pricing. And so essentially whenever you come up with all the details, you upload your book, Amazon will tell you, here's how much money it costs to print your book. Now, this book is very long. So it costs a little bit to print. That was kind of a debate. I'm like, well, gosh, because initially I wanted this book to be for paperback, which is what I know most people will purchase. I want it to be $19.99. It's $24.99. I'm going to get to that in a minute. But the reason it was that price is because it's just so long. And I'm like, you know what? I'd rather have a better book for you guys than, I'm like, what's $5 in the scheme of things? So again, $5 more than I planned. But when you do the book, it comes up with, this is how much it costs Amazon to print it. Then you have the profit margin. So this is the difference between what you sell it for and how much it is to print. Amazon does a split with you. You keep this percentage, Amazon keeps this percentage. And so I don't have the numbers up in front of me, but I'm always an open book if anyone wants to know all the details of this particular book. But there is reasons and rationale behind pricing. Paperback is cheaper, hardcover, the price goes up quite a bit, but honestly, it's really, really nice and totally worth it. So the paperback version of Dietitian Side Hustle is $24.99. If you want the hardcover, it's $10 more at $34.99. And if you're like, oh, that's a little bit too much for me, Katie, you can get it on Kindle. So an ebook version for just $9.99. Now, I don't know the pricing for Audible. I really don't know how that works. I'll figure it out soon once my book gets officially approved and I see stuff on the back end. But I know I'm an Audible user and I get credit, so I don't know what that looks like. It really doesn't matter to me because I just want you guys to be able to access this information sooner than later, and today's the day. So again, go to dietitiansidehustlebook.com or katiedodd.com, or just go into Amazon and search Dietitian Side Hustle, Dietitian Side Hustle book, or Dietitian Side Hustle Katie Dodd, and get your copy. And a side note, because I know that you guys as my podcast listeners are probably people who, of course, you don't have to buy my book, of course, but I also know that you guys are my Ride or Die fans and friends, and I am so grateful for each and every one of you. I know many of you have reached out to me. I love meeting you guys in person, and sometimes I'll meet someone, you guys have been listening to the podcast since the beginning. I'm like, you should have reached out, friend. But I'm grateful for you guys. I know I say this all the time, how grateful I am for you guys. And so I do want to say thank you in advance for those of you who I know will be buying this book. Of course, I love you guys no matter what. But if you do purchase the book, here's my ask for you. If you do purchase the book, I would love it if you can go into Amazon and review it. That does help me to get more eyeballs on the book because I want this to get to more people. Again, dietitians, students, even other healthcare professionals. This really was a passion project and I want to get it into as many hands as possible. So if you buy it, thank you in advance and please review it on Amazon. Okay, so let me tell you a little bit about the journey of this book because I started jotting down a couple notes on my notepad before I started. I know I'm kind of going on the fly with this episode, and let's be honest, every episode. But I wanted to talk to you guys a little bit about the history because it's kind of crazy when I think about it. We often think when we do something, it's in one, like in a silo, in one moment, I've done a thing. But when I look at this book and I look at today being, November 19th, 2025, this book is going live. This book wasn't made in a day. It wasn't even made this year. It has really been a compilation of my journey as a dietitian. So I can go way back for when the bones of this book started. But I think when I started jotting things down, it really comes back to 2019. That is the year that changed things for me. That was the year that I realized that I was an entrepreneur. Because if you know my story, you probably know that I always thought that in order to be an entrepreneur, I had to work with humans. And I did not want to see patients one-on-one. But then in 2019, I heard some inspirational dietitians, 3 to be exact, talk about entrepreneurship in ways that I hadn't heard before, and I realized I was an entrepreneur. I realized I was a side hustler. So fast forward into 2019, towards the end of the year, I was listening to a podcast episode called Smart Passive Income with Pat Flynn. I actually listened to an episode of his podcast this morning. He's been I forget what episode number it is, but he's been podcasting for a real long time. But anyways, this episode was called The State of Podcasts in 2020. And Pat Flynn said, you need to start a podcast. And I listened to Pat Flynn and I said, okay, by the end of that weekend, my podcast Dietitian Side Hustle was live. Which is kind of crazy, honestly. And I'm so grateful for the name because I feel like the name has brought in a lot of people because side hustles have been and tend to be a little trendy. Sometimes people don't like the word side hustle, but that's okay. I share that really a side hustle is just an additional stream of income. You know, you could be a full-time entrepreneur and still have side hustles. But I wish I could think back to that moment when I came up with the name Dietitian Side Hustle, but I think that because I was moving so fast, it was the weekday, I feel like it was like a Wednesday or Thursday that I heard that episode. Then by Sunday, my podcast was live. So I came up with the name, I came up with the description, I bought a free jingle, I created the intro to Dietitian Side Hustle, I found a podcast host, I learned how to connect my podcast host to all the platforms, so that way you can find me on, Spotify, on Apple, all the podcast streaming services, wherever you might listen. And I did it all so quickly. And I think that really benefited me because dietitian and us, right? We can be perfectionists and we want to learn all the things, get everything right. But I was just like, go, go, go. What am I going to do? And I did it quick, friends. And I wish I could remember that moment when I came up with the name Dietitian Side Hustle. And I know that it came from, that's what I was. That's what I did, is I was a side hustler. I was working a full-time job. And I think actually, I know this, another big part of me is as I was diving into entrepreneurship, I heard some really well-meaning entrepreneurs who would imply that the ultimate goal of entrepreneurship was to be a full-time entrepreneur. And if you had the audacity to just want to be a side hustler, then you weren't dreaming big enough. And I remember, of course, I'm a full-time entrepreneur now, but I remember that time, it just really bothered me. I'm like, there's nothing wrong with being a side hustler. If you just want to do something on the side, there's nothing wrong with that. Not everyone is made or built to be a full-time entrepreneur, and that is okay. If you want the stability of a full-time job and the fun of doing what you love on the side, totally fine. So I do know that was some of the reason behind why I wanted to start a podcast called Dietitian Side Hustle. And I also wanted to share with people about all the cool things we could do as dietitians outside of working with clients. And so this podcast, I started it as a hobby, friends. I just wanted to help people. I just wanted to share with you guys. I wanted to talk into a microphone and be able to reach more humans, whoever might listen to me, about all the cool things that we can do. And the deeper that I got into entrepreneurship, I've continued to share my story. I've continued to share a lot of mindset and life stuff because I will tell you, I've learned that, business and personal life are not two separate silos. It's all combined. And it's just been such a crazy journey because I started this podcast as a hobby. I had no idea what would come from starting this little podcast. Now, I'm going to fast forward on my journey. I'm just going to share a couple different points related to the book. In 2020, oh my gosh, I can't even say the word. In 2020, we all remember that year, right? So in 2020, I actually had a book offer. Now, this was a book offer, and I now know it was not a good offer. I haven't seen them as frequently in dietitian Facebook groups, but there are certain companies that will pitch dietitians a rate that seems reasonable if you don't make a ton of money. I forget, it was something like $1,500, maybe even $3,000. It sounds like, that's a lot of money, but you're paid one and done. You don't make any royalties. And I've actually, in retrospect, seen so many dietitians who got screwed over by these types of companies. So I didn't know this at the time, but in 2020, I got this book offer. They reached out to me and they wanted me to write this book. And I felt so honored, like so honored. I'm like, oh my gosh, a book writing opportunity. And I wanted to do it so badly. I started thinking about all the opportunities that could come my way, what it would look like to be an author. And I think that many of us, we have this dream of being an author, right? And maybe you connect with that, maybe you don't. But for me, I've always wanted to write a book. Even since I was a little girl, I can remember I wanted to write a self-help book when I was a little kid. Look at me now. Did it. I know it's on business, but you guys, when you read it, you'll see there's a lot of self-help stuff sprinkled in there because that's what we need. And what I mean by self-help is mindset work. So I got this book offer, but I really had to evaluate the time at the time. I'm working a full-time job. I am freelancing, working for other people. I'm building a blog business. I have a vision. I have a dream. I have crazy audacious goals. If I do this book, it's going to take me out. I'm going to have to put everything on hold because this book is going to take a lot of time to write. And I really had to weigh the pros and the cons. And I said no to this book offer. And I remember it was like a punch in the gut. It felt like, oh, what did I do? But I knew it was the right decision, and it was. I stayed laser focused on the goals in front of me, and thank goodness I did. But in 2022, I did pass up on a book writing opportunity. End of 2020, not 2022. See, this is what I mean. I say the wrong words. 2020, pandemic year. I had a book offer, turned it down. A lot of FOMO. Turned out to be a really good thing. At the end of 2020, I really started leveraging the Dietitian Side Hustle Facebook group and really started focusing on serving dietitians, starting with my blogging accelerator program. And so that was another big shift for me, where I went from just doing all of these of course, my blog business, the geriatric dietitian, and all these freelance gigs, but really focusing on how can I support dietitians in a more tangible way where they could work with me instead of just listening to a podcast with me. Now, I have a note here and I don't remember when, and now I have like an old file, it's a hard drive that I can go look at my old computer files, but I was like, I don't got time for that. But sometime between 2020 and 2022, I actually have on my old computer an outline that I created for a book. I created an outline because I was planning to write a book on entrepreneurship related to Dietitian Side Hustle, but intentions are good. Like, oh yeah, I'll do it. Never did it. In 2022, I actually took that idea of the book, and I had a project for a dietetic intern because this was a wonderful dietetic intern. Her name was Mitzi, and she did blog writing. She did lots of really cool work with me. And whenever I'm working with students, I always talk to them about like, well, what do you need to do? What do you want to do? What experience do you want to have? And one of the projects that we ended up doing was her creating an ebook. So in 2020, a dietetic intern created an amazing ebook called Dietitian Side Hustle that I never published. I'll tell you more about that in a minute. But what she did was she took like all of my content from, some of my free content, the podcast, my website, and the outline that we had we had come up with, and she created an ebook called Dietitian Side Hustle. And it was great, but it wasn't the vision of what I had. And the reason I never published it is because it wasn't what I wanted the book to be. It was more like and maybe you guys know what I'm talking about when I say this, but it was more like a lead magnet. That maybe you might promote, hey, I've got this free ebook, name and email, and then you send someone an ebook. Now, it was very long, and she did a wonderful job with it, but it wasn't the book that I envisioned. And so I sat on it for a long time, and, weeks become days become weeks, become months, I never published that. And I just had to trust my gut in that. It was a really cool project and it was a good product, but it just wasn't the vision that I had because I knew I wanted a full-on manuscript. I wanted something that was very detailed and very comprehensive and not just kind of like light surface level stuff. So yeah, 2020, this was the first year actually there was a book called Dietitian Side Hustle. Just only me and Mitzi knew. Now, towards the end of 2020, again, for those of you who know my story, another big thing changed, and that is where I left my job. So at the end of 2020, I became a full hustler, which I really resisted because I did have a lot of identity in being a dietitian side hustler. And I kind of shared that resentment I felt from full-time entrepreneurs saying that side hustlers aren't good enough. And I'm like, I am breaking the code. I'm doing the thing that I dissed on. I mean, there's nothing wrong with being either one. I want to make that clear, but I did put a lot of my identity in being a side hustler. And I was like, I'm going to die on this hill. And I probably would have died if I continued to side hustle as hard as I was while working a full-time job. So, fast forward into 2024, I actually thought I was going to write a book. I really thought I did. I think I might have shared a little bit of the story on the podcast, but I was working with a book editor, and this was someone I was connected with through my business coach, and so that kind of passed on a lot of trust to me because I trust my business coach 100%, and if he's going to recommend someone, they must be great. Now, I don't fault my business coach at all because he just did not know until later on, like, whoa, what's happening? So anyways, this particular gentleman had met my business coach at a some type of mastermind event. He's all my coach is always doing mastermindy things. Met this guy, great guy. He helped him write a book. And he said, okay, let me back up. So this book editor said, hey, I want to create a program where it's like a course where they teach you how to write a book and then you meet together in person and it's called a book in a day. You write your book in a day. And he's like, can I trial this with your mastermind students? Because I know they're movers, they're shakers, they'll do the work. And my coach was like, sure, free for them? Absolutely. And so I hopped on board because I was like, yes, I want to write a book. I need to do this. And so I did his coursework and I am a good student. So I did every single thing that he asked. And then we met in Florida. I was already going there for my business mastermind. It was just one day early for this book in a day event. I'm not going to lie. I felt a little hesitant when he said, write a book in a day. Because I'm like, really? Can you? But okay, I'm trusting the process. I even remember I had put on Facebook, oh gosh, I wonder if I could find it. I was trying to pull it up. I forgot about that. Nah, it's not up there. But I actually put on Facebook that I mentioned the fact that I was working with the author and I'm going to publish this book. And I was so excited. You guys, I was so excited. I really thought that this was going to happen. And when we met in person, it was not it. I'll just be nice about it, but it was not a good event. Essentially, the whole event was like literally him repeating everything he did in the course. We did nothing. And then he talked about how like you'll write your book in a day, like 40 hours, but that day might take a whole year. And then he like pitched a ridiculously expensive program to work with him. Like now I pay high level, like I am premium. I will pay the right amount for the right program, but this number was a ridiculous number. And I was quite frankly offended because I'm like, this was the bait and switch. And I felt really frustrated because I shared with people online that I was doing this. And I was really upset about that. I was like, oh, I shouldn't have trusted him. And then my coach was not happy. Like he wasn't even supposed to pitch us an offer. And so it was a whole thing. So all that to say, 2024, I was very, very discouraged because I thought that this book was happening and then it just crumbled in a pretty negative experience, if I'm honest. It was not a good experience. Although it was a great experience about, how not to act in business. So let's fast forward to 2025. 2025, I finally found my person to help make my book dreams come true. So Liz Jalkowitz, the dietitian editor, she runs a mastermind. It's called the Dietitian Book Authors Mastermind. Now, Liz is someone I knew I could trust. I knew she was a dietitian. I'm like, yes, let's do this. So I joined this small mastermind. It was myself, Liz, and okay, I got distracted. I'm back. I had to pause. That very seldom happened. Well, does it? I don't know. So anyways, this book writing mastermind that I joined at the beginning of 2025 was with myself, Liz Jalkowitz, and Jen Hernandez. Jen, if you don't know her, she is Plant Powered Kidneys. She is on Instagram. She is a kidney dietitian, I guess, clearly. And she's amazing. And so I joined this mastermind and I knew that being in the right room with the right people, the right guidance, this book was going to happen. So I finally felt with confidence that I was able to share with my people, I'm doing this because I just hate saying I'm going to do something and then I don't. And I think all of us can relate to that, and life happens. Wait till you hear my next podcast episode. That's going to be a fun one. But anyways, life happens, things happen, but it was just very, very discouraging for me because this was something I wanted to do clearly for years, something I'd been planning, something I've been trying to do. And I finally found the right people. And so this journey of actually finally writing the book really started in 2025. And so I'll kind of walk you through a little bit of the process. So Liz is wonderful. She had all these worksheets, forms, guidance, walking us through all the things. And in the very beginning, we had to make lots of decisions essentially on what the book was going to be on. And at the time, I wasn't 100% sure. I was pretty confident it was going to be Dietitian Side Hustle, but I was like, well, maybe I'll write a book about geriatrics, maybe business in general, maybe I'll talk about blogging, but I ended up going with side hustles because remember, I was like, I already kind of had a book, an ebook. And so then we had to do we did market research. We did a deep dive into all the things. The kind of the pre-work took a long time. And that's what's so cool about her program, because it's not just write a book and put it out there, but let's make sure we're, doing a book that people actually want, that people are going to search for, and making sure that we do all of the foundational work first. I was actually just looking back, even just creating a mind map of what are all the things I want to include in this book, and then coming up with a table of contents that actually makes sense and is clear. Much more complicated than it sounds. And actually, I did most of that work when I was on an airplane. And so I did it all on paper, because that's just kind of how I roll. You guys probably hear me a lot when I talk about pen to paper. So I actually did a whole mind map where I had all of the possible things I could talk about. It's a big old mess. And then fine tuning that into an outline. Now, I do have a book launch Facebook group full of some really amazing humans who give me feedback. I email them occasionally. It's mostly in the Facebook group. And I did share the outline in there, and I got some feedback and actually made some tweaks based on it. Because sometimes we think, oh, this makes sense, and then it doesn't at all. So that took a lot of work. Now, the actual months that I was boots on the ground writing this book were April, May, June, July, August. And let me tell you, the writing process, it's so much. I feel like I've complained about this before, but if I was not in a mastermind, this book would not exist. Writing a book sounds so fun. Rainbows, puppy dogs, woohoo, I'm an author. The boots on the ground writing a book process is so much. It's so much. It's so much to write. I mean, I wrote so many pages. I mean, the number of words in this book is ridiculous. And I did enjoy it. I'm not trying to say all of these things, but there were moments that I was questioning my sanity, moments that I'm on Voxer or my mastermind, whose idea was it to write a book? This is ridiculous, because it takes so long. Because in your head, you're like, oh, I'm going to bust out this chapter. And then you're still writing, and you're still writing, and you're pushing back your timelines, and you're pushing back your timelines, and you think you're going to be done by this date, and you're not. And it was a lot. It was a lot, and it turned out good, and I'm so proud of it. But it takes some time to write a book. That's just the reality of it. So I was physically writing the book April, May, June, July, August. Then in September, I got the book to my 4 beta readers who gave me some great feedback, made some changes. And that's when I really dove into a lot of the editing and formatting. And there's a whole world behind formatting books. Whew, I don't even understand all of it. But if you guys remember, initially this book was supposed to be live November 5th, and I did have to make a pivot because my book still wasn't ready the week before. I'm like, I can't. I'm done is better than perfect all day, every day, but not the issues I was having. I'm like, if I'm going to sell you guys a book for $24.99, it's going to look good. Okay. There might be an occasional typo. If you find one, let me know, but it's not going to be the formatting's not going to suck. So I did push back the launch to November 15th November 19th, today. And the reason is simply because I wanted to have my little party. Now I know it's going to be, just a small little Zoom call with, people who happen to hop on, but I don't know. I just really wanted to do that to celebrate this book and the little movement of Dietitian Side Hustle. So that is my story of how this book came to be. It started as a podcast in 2019 that I just thought was going to be a hobby. I ran into my first book offer in 2020, turned it down with lots of FOMO. I had an amazing intern in 2022 write an ebook called Dietitian Side Hustle, pulling all my content together into one, book. And she, again, did a great job, but it wasn't quite the vision, so it didn't go live. 2024, I was working with a book editor, thought that was it. It was not it. Very disappointed. But then 2025, I ended up finding the right people and wrote this darn book. And so now it is live in the world, and I am just so excited. I cannot wait for you to get your hands on it. Please reach out if, let me know. Hey, Katie, I'm reading the book. That means a lot to me when you guys reach out. And I know we're all busy, but probably one of the best ways, either Facebook or Instagram at the Katie Dodd are probably the easiest ways to reach out to me. But let me know what you think. And again, if you buy it, please review it on Amazon. That means the world to me. And share it with people, you guys. I would really appreciate that. It makes a great gift. But then also just share the link. Share the link. And the book that Jen Hernandez wrote, if you want to see her book, because her book is live. Her book did go live on November 6th, the day after mine was supposed to go live. Her book is called Plant-Powered Kidney Nutrition, Proven Methods and Easy Recipes to Support Your Kidney Health. And so that book is live online. She's just crushing it. She's already got 10 5-star reviews. And so, oh gosh, I can't find it. I do have the book. Here it is. For those, for the 10 people who watch this on YouTube, this is Jen's book, and it's so good because it's full of very practical information for kidney disease and nutrition. And we know that kidney disease can be so confusing, and textbooks aren't going to help consumers. And this is something that Jen made that's like easy to understand, plain English, and it's really, really good. And I feel like I maybe shared this before, but even Jen, when we were doing our market research, there are so many AI books out there right now on kidney health and nutrition that are not written by dietitians. They lie and say they are. Like, we found this book that had tons of reviews, and it's written by a dietitian, but then when you look at it, you're like, oh, that seems like AI. It is AI. And that's insane to me. And it makes me so mad because, we wonder why are our clients so confused when we see them in clinic? It's because there's all this fake junk online. So anyways, I'm so grateful that Jen has a book online written by a dietitian. So anyways, that's what I got for you guys. My book is live. Thank you for listening to almost 40 minutes of me talking all about myself and my book. But I hope that this was even helpful too, just to share that journey. And I want all of you guys to just internalize the journeys that you're on, that sometimes we don't realize that when we're on the journey, what's happening, what's becoming, what's coming next. And it's so cool to be at a point like, writing a book for me is a big pivotal moment. I'm always going to remember this moment, but to look back and see the journeys like, whoa. And so I just want to encourage all of you on your journeys, and also thank you for being on mine. So as always, thank you so much for listening to the Dietitian Side Hustle podcast. Head on over to katiedodd.com to learn about all the ways we could work together and to buy the book. And I appreciate you guys. I'll see you next week on the podcast. Bye, guys.